Hey, Clausia here. After seeing Tarquin try a LP channel retrospective, I thought I would try it for my 2000 video event in addition to the reopening of the bonus time slot on Saturday. Mine's going to be a bit different in style, of course, because I mostly have finished LPs. Let's see, jumping into it, I of course got my start with Racketeer in 2011, October 13th. I had been watching a video series, or maybe it was just one video, made by Tarquin and Bertrudor. They were playing Mario Kart on the SNES and just talking about LPs and what they thought worked well in LPs and stuff. And Bertrudor mentioned this moment where he just sort of realized that he could make LPs too. And hearing him say that, I realized there was really nothing stopping me. I too am capable of playing video games and talking. I'm saying I'm a lot. Let's see, where was I going with that? So yeah, I figured I would just try it. I wasn't really gonna commit to it. I figured I could probably find equipment and software that were free or already lying around, and just try one LP. You can see that I went a bit farther with it. But for now, let's just talk about Racketeer. So, I had a headset with a microphone on it. It didn't even have one of those like foam things. It was like a pretty terrible microphone. And I found online this software called Cam Studio. It's not good. It's not Camtasia, it's Cam Studio. But it was free. It had that going for it. It had this little issue where if you told it that you wanted 30 frames per second of video, it would actually take the images for the frames, like a calculated offset of milliseconds off from each other that was rounded. So it ended up taking not enough frames for 30 frames per second. So the video would desync from the audio. It also had this other issue where if you recorded more than about 15 minutes, the file would get too big and it would just crash when you stopped your recording instead of saving the file successfully. This led to a few technical difficulties with my first LP. I would not recommend going back and watching it. It mostly still just stands as an example of how far I've come. Not only were there technical issues, also I wasn't nearly as good at LPing. I mean, who'd have thought? There were even other issues later when I switched recording software to Livestream Procaster because I didn't know how to set it up right. I ended up recording standard aspect ratio video, but saving to a widescreen aspect ratio, and then editing in Windows Movie Maker back in the standard aspect ratio, and then uploading to YouTube. And there were like 2 episodes with these horrible black bars on all 4 sides of the screen because of going back and forth between aspect ratios. I think it was somewhere around episode 40 or 50. It was actually at the same time as this one-off I did of Phantasmagoria of Flower View, which has the same problem. Let's see. And one other thing to notice about Racketeer is it's absurdly long. I didn't quite realize how many videos the post-game was going to take me. But I guess if there's anything good to say about this, I did do the whole post-game, except I never beat Crystal Nightmare Boss Rush. But it's probably one of the most complete Racketeer LPs out there. Maybe find another LP for the main game and just start watching around I don't know, once the technical difficulties stop. Chantalise, I started during Racketeer. I think I was uploading Racketeer twice a week. I wanted another game alongside it because I was getting kind of bored with Racketeer. It was dragging on. It's 84 videos long, so actually I guess just after, it looks like I would have started Chantalise around video 20 or something. I was also still using Cam Studio, so it suffered from some of the same difficulties as Racketeer. Both the games actually are made by Easy Game Station. At this point, I was an only Easy Game Station player, and both were translated by Carpa Fulgur. Yeah, I think Chantalise was an okay game. I still wouldn't recommend the LP. We're not quite to that territory. But oh boy, I forgot to say something I really wanted to say. It's or did I say it? This is a take two. I don't know what I said. Anyway, the choice of Racketeer. I'm not convinced it was a good choice, but the reason it was chosen is because, I mean, it was just a kind of unique game. I think I had recently played through it. This was not a blind LP. I mean, you can see in the notes here, Chantalise was my first blind LP. I just kind of wanted to show it to TurboTales98. Figured I could do it by recording it. TurboTales98 has actually been a big part of my motivation for continuing LPs. He watches them, he sends me emails or Steam messages about what he thinks. So you don't usually see him in the comments, but he's been a big supporter since like day one, or maybe like day 7. I might have taken him a week, or I might have taken a week before I actually told him I was doing videos at all or something. But you know, a really early supporter. Let's see. Yeah. Also around that time, I guess I was bored with both Racketeer and Chantalise, or maybe I just really wanted to play Link to the Past. But I guess I first started my 3 time slot schedule in January 2012. I borrowed, oh man, I can't remember what it was called. It was some sort of capture card from my dad's work. And I actually captured this from the GBA version on a GameCube with the Game Boy Advance player. I had different audio sync issues than Cam Studio gave me. I'm not actually entirely sure why. I don't have a nice explanation like with Cam Studio, but I distinctly remember needing to stretch my audio. And also, since I was recording the audio separately, I needed to edit it onto the video. If you actually watch it, you'll notice that at the start of each video, I swing my sword 3 times. Once on Hello, once on Classier, and once on The Legend of Zelda Link to the Past. Or whatever I said for the title. I might have just said Link to the Past. Yeah. Let's see. Trying to see if there's anything notable about the dates that it was published, but I don't think so. It was just my shortest LP for a bit. Moving on with the idea of capturing actual stuff. I did borrow the capture device for a little while longer. I started Lost Kingdoms 2, but it needed to be taken back to my dad's workplace, so I didn't finish the LP for a while. 16 episode LP that took a year and 9 months, but I did finish it. Let's see. I thought I'm just looking at the dates. I thought I moved out in May, but I thought I did Mega Man and Bass while still in my parents' basement. I don't know. Anyway, I believe Mega Man and Bass was my first LP fully on Livestream Procaster. It's also where TurboTales98 pointed out that I was like starting to talk a bit more, and I think he used nicer words, but it was where I actually started getting good. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend any of these fourth LPs listed here. I mean, maybe the Link to the Past. I did at least try a bit harder to get the audio to work right. I think on Chantilly's and Racketeer, I also eventually started extracting the audio and stretching or... No, compressing? I think it would have been compressing on these series. But, I mean, it's hard to get right. But yeah, Mega Man and Bass was recorded with software that actually recorded the video and audio together and kept them synced up. And Mega Man and Bass is actually my favorite Mega Man game. Well, favorite classic Mega Man. I think I actually prefer Mega Man ZX. And Mega Man 03 is up there as well. Let's see, sort of keeping with my near theme of easy game station stuff. Actually, no, Carpa Fulgur stuff. This isn't by Easy Game Station, it was by Carpa Fulgur. Fortune Summoner's Secret of the Elemental Stone. It's an RPG, it's an action RPG. The controls are a little clunky. Attacking just doesn't feel good. But it still feels better than the spell casting. You can kind of muddle your way through it with enough items, though, and I mean, the game's cute. This was also not a blind LP. I'd beaten it before. I think it turned out alright. Fairy Bloom Frisia. It's a beat 'em up. It was my second blind LP. And I had fun with it. So I think it turned out well. I think I do a much better with good games than when I'm LPing a bad game. There are distinct styles to them. I think I've kind of learned how to LP bad games as long as they're bad in certain ways. If the badness makes it really difficult, I just get frustrated. Speaking of bad games, which Fairy Bloom Frisia was not, I played Bob. This was sort of the start of a series of trying to beat games from my childhood. Bob is... I mean, it has interesting gameplay. I can't call it terrible. It was just from that era where occasionally quirky animations and stuff got in the way of actual gameplay. You were punished way too hard by the silly splat animation if you took fall damage while falling onto a damaged surface, because the damaged surface would just like murder you while you were stunned. But it has good resource management. You get a bunch of different item types, you platform around, you search for the health on the level so that you can refill, and of course you search for good weapons. Yeah, I guess in that way it's kind of comparable to a first-person shooter, except it's a quirky platformer on the SNES. I think I did pretty well with it. Something weird happened, though. My original final episode went missing. I ended up redoing it in 2017, just the final episode. Moving on, They Bleed Pixels. I can't remember why I did this LP. Maybe I was just interested in the game and I was starting to get into the mindset of, well, if I'm gonna play an interesting looking game, I might as well share it. It was sort of my first hard LP, where I really started editing a lot more out. I had not yet learned that sometimes it's okay to just cut past deaths entirely. So there are some truly long death montages in there. I did enjoy the game, though. It's sort of a, if Super Meat Boy had more beat-em-up elements to it. I think it turns out well. One thing worth mentioning is I did have a technical issue with my first episode. I lost the microphone audio, and I did post-production audio for the first time. Trying to a puzzle game that I played through it specifically to answer one question on Stack Overflow about whether you could beat the game without upgrading. And I believe that is actually impossible. But around episode 8 to 10 or something, I ended up spending some skill points, and I believe I chose the ones that let you beat the game with the minimum upgrades possible. But yeah, it was a platform puzzle game. I enjoyed it. You switch among 3 characters, but unlike in, no, not Brave Dwarves, Lost Vikings, they don't all maintain their own position. You just swap in place. There's this artifact called the Trine. It keeps all their souls in it and lets them swap physical positions or something. I don't know, there's some explanation to it. East Origin, I played through it. It was fun. It was a 3D East game. They're action RPGs. This was my first playthrough of East Origin. It was not my first playthrough of a 3D East game. I had off camera played East the Oath and Felghana, and I had also tried on the PlayStation 2 at least some of Ark of Nephishtim. Yeah, would recommend the LP though. I mean, we're past Mega Man and Bass. Let's see. Super Castlevania 4 was the continuation of childhood games. It is much better than Bob as a game. I liked it. That's all I have to say about Super Castlevania 4. I mean, it's Castlevania. Disney's Epic Mickey 2 The Power of Two, I believe, was actually the first request I ever completed. Maybe not the first request I got, but the first one I completed. It was actually funny. Someone at work, after I mentioned that I was doing this whole YouTube thing, asked me to play this game so that I think their nephew could watch it or something. I don't know the family relationship. I've met the person. He really enjoyed it. He's also like 8 or something. I guess he was stuck in the game, and my LP would serve as his walkthrough. This was recorded on actual hardware, as it says in the notes. I think my capture hardware, I've never had like perfect capture hardware. I've usually had some sort of audio issue. There's probably an amount of audio desync. I think it's probably better than the early Racketeer episodes, though. It's like very slow desync. That sort of plagues all of the games that I played on actual consoles. I'll mention it. If you're going through my archives, I wouldn't be offended if you skip all the games that I played on actual consoles. Legend of Mystical Ninja, another unfinished childhood game. It gets really hard at the end. Possibly harder than Super Castlevania 4. It's also a kind of sillier game. I don't know. If you're not familiar with Goemon, it's a Goemon game. I don't know. Well, it's a Goemon game either way. Yeah. You're a ninja. You're mystical. Except I don't think I ever got any of the jutsus. I think I used them at the end because I needed them. Super R-Type. I believe this was either directly or indirectly requested by Bertrudor. He was going through some of his old things and he found a Super R-Type cartridge. And I don't know if he like made a vague comment that it would be nice if somebody did a playthrough of it and then like we talked in the comments, or if he like called me out specifically, but I played it. I do like shoot 'em ups a lot, or at least I used to play them a lot. It's actually kind of weird that it took me over a year to actually play a shoot 'em up on my channel. I had, before I even started LPing, played through Touhou's 6, 7, and 8, and 9. I actually have the CDs. They're in my basement. Yes, I imported shoot 'em ups from Japan at one point. Yeah, Super R-Type, it gets really difficult at the end, unless I'm mixing it up with R-Type 3, Third Lightning, which I played later. But yeah, I think it turned out well. I think if it's the one I'm thinking of, there might just be a cut near the end that just says like 40 minutes later. after an already sizable death montage. So I had learned something from my Beyblade Pixels playthrough. Brave Fencer Musashi. It's a I mean, I'd kind of compare it to Zelda, but with platforming in 3D, but like PlayStation platforming in 3D. I don't think the platforming was the highest quality, especially not when you have a timer and the tree's gonna explode for some reason. um, I wasn't super impressed with the game, but I think it was actually like a good game in its era. And I mean, I think the LP turned out all right. Let's see. These are sorted by start date, by the way, in case you hadn't picked up on that. Magica is one of my 2 finished or unfinished LPs ever. I was playing with a few friends. I asked if I could record it, recorded it. I think it went up as some bonus episodes. It didn't even take a real LP time slot. And I never played Magica with that set of friends again. As a warning, there is swearing involved in those videos. I don't, but my friends did. I would definitely consider an LP of Magica, just single player, if somebody requested it. I have played a little beyond what was in those videos, because I actually later ended up playing some Magica off camera with Bertrudor. We also didn't finish the game though, so there's that. This is going to be a lot of episodes if I'm going to talk about every LP. Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. I guess this is my first turn-based RPG LP. I believe it was requested by Lemon Curd Addict 1234. I like it as an RPG because it still lets you dodge things. If you're perfectly skilled, you never take any damage. I really like games that let you fight down to the last hit point and last little bit of resources that you have, instead of ones where you can see in advance that you're doomed. Let's see, Skullgirls. I played a fighting game against a friend. It was recorded. It's not an LP of the single player. There is no story in that playlist. Mega Man ZX. I was emulating it. I like Mega Man ZX. I think Bertrudor had asked me to play some Mega Man Zero game, but Mega Man ZX is kind of similar in style, and I wanted to show it. I feel like a lot of people overlooked the ZX games, but they're good. Yeah. So I probably ran the idea by him first, and he was like, yeah, that's cool. So I don't know. I don't remember why I LP'd it exactly. I'm fairly certain, though. Or rather, I don't remember the exact conversations. System Shock 2. I believe it's my first-person shooter LP. I know it's kind of a cult classic, but I honestly didn't like it. Probably partially due to how much I got lost and missed that you're supposed to break through one window, and during the final boss, I ended up getting super frustrated because of the respawning hologram things. It was suggested to me later that the things that I thought I could maybe interact with around the edge of the arena were actually things to attack. I remember I tried the interact button, but it did nothing. Yeah, I mean, watch it if you want, but I don't think that's one of my better LPs. Poil Pop Fever. I think I just wanted to show Poil Pop Fever. It's a pretty short game. I mean, the story mode is basically an arcade mode with story scenes, kind of like Kirby's Avalanche. Poil Pop Fever, though, introduces the fever mechanic. It makes it so that if you block attacks, you end up going into like this temporary super mode where it just like gives you chains. I don't know. I like it. I think I prefer Puyo Puyo Tetris over Puyo Pop Fever, maybe? I don't know. Puyo Puyo Tetris's actual hybrid modes are kind of not amazing. I like swap mode. I don't like fusion mode. But anyway, I've never done an LP of Puyo Puyo Tetris because I stopped doing console LPs, and I only have Puyo Puyo Tetris on the Switch because I don't think the PC version is out yet. I think there's like a pre-order sale going on like right now. It's pretty fun. Anyway, yeah, Puyo Puyo Fever was on the GameCube, so standard caveat applies. Mega Man Network Transmission was definitely one where I had audio issues. I ended up inserting blank space into the video to try to resync the audio periodically. Besides the technical difficulties, though, I think it went pretty well. I like Network Transmission, Mega Man Network Transmission. It's the only platformer in the Battle Network series. But yeah, you go, you fight Net Navis, you get battle chips. It has more RPG mechanics than other Mega Man games. And you kind of like, you make a deck of cards, basically, of your skills. Although, unlike the standard Mega Man Battle Network games, you get like a stack instead of like a card. So like you'll draw your cannon and then you can shoot it like 30 times. So you end up not really visiting the deck as much, if that makes sense. So often it'll just feel like a Mega Man game, but with random special weapons every time you go to a level. I don't know. I like it. I think it's fun. Let's see. I played through Portal 2, the single player. I think it was a good game. I don't remember if this was blind or not. I think I had played through it before. Not sure. It's still a good game, though. I think my first non-dropping blocks puzzle game. Although there certainly were puzzles in other games. Like Fortune Summoners had some block pushing. So Legend of Zelda Parallel Worlds. I don't think it was a good game. It had very good elements to it at times, but there were just like a couple dungeons that were like super dumb. That's my review. I think the LP was mostly fine, but I think it was one of those ones where my failures turned into frustration. I sort of have two failure states. I have frustrated failure, which I really don't like in videos, and I have kind of like exhausted failure, which is like also not good but more acceptable to me. I think this was one of those frustrated failure sort of LPs at times. But I did make it through it. I finished the game. I might have employed a few save states because it expects you to learn how to bomb jump. And I have no past speedrun experience. I still haven't learned how to bomb jump. Yeah. Mega Man ZX Advent, the sequel to Mega Man ZX. I think it's also a good game. I had some audio settings wrong in the emulator, so the in-game voices didn't sound very good, but that was basically the only technical difficulty. The LP as a whole is fine. Let's see. Okay. For a second, I was thinking up until now I hadn't played anything that I didn't also have on external hardware, but that's not true. I don't actually have copies of Super R-Type or Brave Fencer Musashi. Everything else, though, I had played before on real hardware. Well, and of course, Parallel Worlds is a ROM hack. Custom Robo, another game that I think is good that unfortunately was marred by my not amazing capture hardware or capture software. I'm not certain where the problem lay. But it's pretty cool. You get all these custom parts. You make robots that fight in a Power Stone sort of setup. There's like a third-person camera, and you jump around in a 3D arena and you shoot guns at each other, and you try to deplete the other robot's hit points first. But you also have like bombs you can throw and things you can send out called pods, and they'll act as hazards. So you're kind of trying to like trap your opponent into like getting hit by your gun with your other tools. I don't know, it's a pretty good game. I have at times considered doing an emulated LP of the DS custom Robo, which I have also actually played through on actual hardware, so it would not be a blind LP. I guess I should end off this part of the retrospective. In the next part, we'll start with Sort of Super Meat Boy I have listed there. See ya!